Hi, good evening. I'm Seng Kuan, lecturer in architecture here at the Graduate School of Design. I'm also on the faculty at the University of Tokyo and also serve as chief editor of the Tokyo-based magazine A+U. I want to begin today's presentation with this acknowledgement. The Harvard Graduate School of Design is located on the traditional and ancestral land of the Massachusetts, the original inhabitants of what is now known as Boston and Cambridge. We pay respect to the people of the Massachusetts tribe, past and present, and honor the land itself, which remains sacred to the Massachusetts people. The school also recognizes the work of the Harvard University Native American program in cultivating the relationships that led to the creation of this acknowledgement. I have the privilege this evening of introducing the main speaker, Koji Yanai, Senior Executive Officer of Fast Retailing Group, the controlling entity of the global fashion behemoth, UNIQLO. He oversees sustainability communications for the Fast Retailing Group, as well as UNIQLO's global marketing efforts, which includes sports. Before joining Fast Retailing, Mr. Yanai worked for the Mitsubishi Corporation, providing support to Japanese retailers seeking to expand overseas. This led to a secondment a few years later to the company's UK subsidiary. I also want to acknowledge that for the past 6 years in a row, UNIQLO has actually sponsored 2 students from Japan on full scholarships to study here at the Graduate School of Design. Koji Yanai graduated from the Faculty of International Commerce at Yokohama City University in Japan in 2001 with a bachelor's degree in economics. This evening, rather than speaking to us about the exciting world of fashion and mass consumer culture, Mr. Yanai's talk will focus on architecture in the urban realm, addressing the collection of public toilets built in Tokyo's centrally located Shibuya ward in preparation for the 2020-21 Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. Mr. Yanai played a central role from behind the scenes through the Nippon Foundation in commissioning these public toilets. Some of these works engage well-renowned Pritzker-winning architects, while the others relied on allied fields such as graphics design and pop and social media. Before coming to the contemporary flourishing of public toilets in the world of Japanese design and architecture, I just want to briefly make one point that will hopefully give some color to the importance of Mr. Yanai's presentation. It has to do with the idea that these public toilets are, quote, the smallest public architecture, saisho koukyo kenchiku, which is a term that is often heard in Japanese architectural communities. In fact, 4 decades ago, in the 1980s, there was another significant experiment with small public architecture in the form of the ubiquitous koban that you find all over Japan. These are really boxes about 8 meters square, staffed by just 2 officers at any given time, as local outposts of the national police system on the neighborhood level. In 1982, the Metropolitan Government of Tokyo launched a campaign that would rebuild these police boxes all over Tokyo, working with outside architects. The famous police box in Tokyo's satellite town of Chofu, designed by Kazuya Sejima and completed in 1994, was a particularly well-known example of this effort. While there may be similarities in terms of scale and scope between the public toilets of today and police stations, police boxes of the past, there is a profound ideological and social distinction between the two. In the exact same manner as the so-called octroi by the 18th century French architect Claude Nicolas Lodeau, who designed 62 toll booths along the so-called Farmers General Wall, along the circumference of the city of Tokyo for the collection of taxes. These police boxes in bubble period Japan were formless vignettes that in fact serve as the faces of the state as part of a top-down coercive system. With a new generation of public toilets now springing up all over Tokyo, the smallest public architecture signifies a new kind of public. As no doubt we'll hear from Mr. Yanai, these public community amenities represent a crucial development in Japan as it confronts an increasingly diverse, pluralistic civic order where rights of minorities and the disenfranchised become even more present in civic discourse. Through these public toilets, we're seeing a profound shift in terms of generations, in terms of values in Japanese society. As a foreigner such as myself, who has been living on and off in Japan for the last 20 years, these are hugely inspiring and reassuring changes. So on this note, I invite Koji Yanai to the podium. Thank you.
Well, thank you for introduction of myself, and it's a very pleasure to be here, and I'm so happy to introduce my project to you guys. And today, my presentation was consisted two parts. One is the inspiration of myself, and the other one is what I learned from this project. I hope you could enjoy my presentation. So at the beginning of the presentation, I would like to play one videos.
Yes, I can, suddenly, yes, I can. Gee, I'm afraid to go on has turned into, yes, I can. Take a look, what do you see? 133 pounds of confidence, me. Got the feeling I can do anything, yes, I can. Something that sings in my blood is telling me, yes, I can. I was just born today, I can go all the way, yes, I can. 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 Hey, yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can!
Are you ready? I can climb Everest. Yes, I can. I can fight here all night and never rest. Yes, I can. I was just born today. I can go all the way. Yes, I can.
Yes, I watched this video in 2016. I was so shocked and also very much inspired by this movie. And then I realized my feeling that I want to do something for Paralympic Games, not Olympic Games. That's the first inspiration of myself for this project. And also I clearly remembered another things as a significant inspirational moment. This picture shows the one scene of the Japanese team pitch in the competition to host the 2020 Olympic Games and Paralympic Games. The Japanese team used Omotenashi as one of the killer phrases of their presentations and won the pitch. Many times, Omotenashi is translated into Japanese hospitality. Yes, it is correct, but I believe Omotenashi is more than just a split of hospitality. Omotenashi has its own roots in the Japanese tea ceremony culture, and many diversified meanings are inside in this one word. In my own definition of Omotenashi, one of the characteristic features of Omotenashi is unnoticeable and not charged as a service fee, the free of charge. That's why many cases of Omotenashi gestures cannot be recognized, even if I am facing it right now. They are basically included in the services, the hidden under many veils and not standardized and templated. Omotenashi gestures are always tailor-made depending on guests. Therefore, they don't need to make loud gestures, and they are very rarely recognized. But we are so impressed and so moved by gestures when we luckily can recognize it. I'm sure this is Japan's unique culture. That's why I'm so excited about how we could show our spirit of Omotenashi to the world when I saw this presentation. Actually, I felt, wow, as a country, Japan promised we will show the best hospitality spirit in the world through the 2020 games. And I was so proud such an ambitious promise came out from Japan. This is the Shingo Kunieda. Maybe some of you know him. He is the best wheelchair tennis players in the world. He won more Grand Slam titles than Roger Federer. He is a kind of living legend. Also, he is UNIQLO's first global brand ambassador. So I had the opportunity to have a conversation with him. That was in 2016 as well. Of course, the topic was the 2020 Paralympic Games. No doubt, Shingo was so excited about the Paralympic Games. But he was also worried about the city of Tokyo itself, because Tokyo is not truly friendly for disability people. Even less so for non-Japanese people, it's that Tokyo city itself is not truly friendly. Even Shingo, he is struggling to going to the platform of the train station and tube stations. So I was so disappointed and shocked when I heard Shingo's reactions and his concerns about the city of Tokyo. But at the same time, it was an eye-opening moment for me, because I realized that people with disabilities can have the opposite point of view compared to me. Their angle on these issues can be totally different from mine, and so deeply connected to their everyday life. Through these experiences, I realized my own emotions. As a Japanese person, I would like to show my own Omotenashi spirit to the world. Also, I felt it might be interesting if I could create an opportunity or experiences for people from the perspective of a disabled person. If I could make people think or experience such an aha moment like I did, it would be a good way for them to find the direct solutions to other essential issues of living. It's easy to imagine that there are so many facilities not accessible for the disabled people. That's why I thought if I could make something special that's only for disabled people and create emotions or moments for many people that would cause them to envy disabled people, it would be interesting. Something luxurious, beautiful, prestigious, and premium, but only disabled people can use it. I wanted to make such unusual facilities in Tokyo. I planned and proposed many ideas to build shops, sports gyms, restaurants, and try to start TV series or movies. I contacted many people and companies to do that. However, one day I remembered my father's quote. It was turning point for this project. Specialness is nice to have, but what's more important is being made for all. This idea of made for all is core philosophy of UNIQLO brand. We are creating something for all people regardless the race, gender, sexuality, nationality, religion, age, politics, or disabilities. This is the very core of UNIQLO. And that's why we call our clothing lifewear. Creating something to solve life's needs goes beyond just clothing. It's something the company addresses on a daily basis. So I thought, why not do the same for my project? When I remembered my father's quote, I remembered how open he is to everyone. And I felt the making facilities only for disabilities people might be making a reverse discrimination. So I changed my plans totally and tried to find a way forward with a concept that doesn't matter if the person is disabled or not. I wanted to tell people that we are all the same in the sense that we are all different. When we are in a super busy moment, maybe sometimes we can miss the lunch or dinner, or we cannot sleep one night, but there are no days when we don't go to the toilet. So I thought, why not do the same for public toilet? I decided to make this project to cause a change in the body of society by putting the world's highest level of creativity into the most fundamental activities that humans must perform as long as we are human. I also had the confidence. In fact, the Japanese toilet quality is by far beyond the best in the world. Maybe some of you guys know it. Right. That's why I launched this project, and I contacted these creators one by one. I did everything to contact them, sending email, of course, phone calls, writing a letter, a knock on the office. But this process was so interesting and inspiring for me. I really enjoyed the conversation with these creators. But regarding the selection of the creators, from the beginning, I decided I would not only invite architects. I felt strongly that I needed to invite and collaborate with creators besides just architects. That's why I invited product designer, fashion designer, interior designer, creative director, and university professor. I believe attacking the issues from the multiple angles is one of the key success factors of the problem solving. And that is why it is a particular honor for me today to share this story with the Harvard GSD members. Here is a few pictures of the toilet. This is the Kangokumas Toilet. There is in the park. He used a recycled wood to show his expertise and sort of a sustainability mind. I clearly remembered the day, the presentation from him. He came to our office and he made a great presentation, of course, and he shows super expensive budget to me. When I received that offer from the genius of the architect, my answer was, of course, yes. Super expensive. He built 5 toilets in the one park, and he also made toilets only for the child as well. The second one, this is the Fumihiko Matsukis Toilet. This toilet was built in the park as well. And this park is well known for these red colored octopus sliders. And his inspiration of toilet is also this octopus. When I met him and asked why you make this design for this toilet, and he said, "Hey, Koji-san, this park is very famous for red color octopus. That's why I designed the roof of the toilet white squid." Yeah, he has a great sensitivity of the humor. I like him very much. That actually, he said, he said the same comment in the official interview. So this shape looks like a white squid. So please come to Japan and to see this roof. This is Nao Tamura's toilet. She's a product designer, and she's based in New York more than 20 years. She use a red color as a signature color of this toilet. Her inspiration is coming from Japanese traditional letter head or letter design. And she said she also uses this color as a kind of alert color to avoid the criminal mind. So that's the mindset, or that's the way of thinking is coming from her experience in New York. I would like to play one movie to explain my project.
Tokyo is one of the most comfortable cities to live in the world. However, one area that Tokyo had failed to evolve was the public toilet. Dark, unsafe, and unsanitary. This is especially true for those with disabilities, women, and children. Our project sought to redesign the perception of public toilets in Tokyo. 17 public restrooms in Tokyo were redesigned by 16 of Japan's leading artists.
This toilet can be operated by using your voice.
A toilet that innovated public sanitation through voice commands. A toilet with a circular design that reuses waste wood. A transparent toilet to promote behavioral changes to help reduce crime. The diverse designs and experiences changed public toilets into a symbolic place to maintain together with the community.
今までの公共トイレっていうのはもうそれを多様性を殺すみたいな作り方が公共トイレだったんだけど、今回は多様性とか個性っていうものをむしろ生かすような全く逆のものができたと思いますね。
These iconic toilets became the new face of Tokyo, and the world was watching.
日本の国のシンボルは清潔、そして美しいと、新しい姿として外国の人たちが見に来られた時に素晴らしい日本だなと思ってもらえるんではないかと思っています。
Public toilets in Tokyo were reimagined from a place people avoided to a place people wanted to visit.
Also, I would like to introduce one more element of the project. The project is not the private project. This is the public toilet. Therefore, I carefully structured this project schemes from execution, government and city, and construction to facilities and equipment. Finding and selecting the right partner is also key to success. This time I could reach out to the right partner in each section and hopefully convince them to participate in this project. Public toilets major issues. Very easy to identify. Dark, dirty, scary, smelly. Women avoid them. Not friendly for disabled people, not child friendly, hard to locate. So my creative belief to the creators was so simple. Just look at what the issues are and renovate the public toilet. That's it. I'm sure every single creator loves their art like it's their baby. So from the beginning, I promised them I would put my best effort into maintain and clean these toilets. All of creators appreciated this strategy very much. And normally, Shibuya toilets are cleaned once a day. However, this time I installed a special cleaning scheme and programs to our toilets, and our toilets are cleaned 3 times a day by staff wearing the special uniform designed by fashion designer Nigo. He's a now creative director of the Kenzo brand. I like this quote a lot and kept in mind throughout the project. Design is a solution to a problem. Art is a question to a problem. I believe the innovation and changing people's way of thinking will be achieved when both problem solving and problem posing are realized simultaneously. I'm sure that I was able to achieve such innovation this time by inviting and activating the world's top-tier creators. I believe that even a public toilet, one of the smallest public architecture, can change the world and make Japan unique and wonderful country. I like the one of my favorite news clip.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning, Saturday. We begin this half hour with a new way of experiencing nature's call. Visitors and residents in Tokyo are flipping their lids, that's right, I said it, over the city's latest attraction. Lucy Kraft has that story.
Tokyo's hottest new destination isn't a swanky restaurant, nightclub, or museum. Set in local parks, the jewel-like cubes are tinted tangerine, pink, and purple, and shades of blue-green. These aren't just works of art, they're public bathrooms, with a feature not standard in most toilet stalls: see-through walls.
These are no ordinary plate glass windows, but so-called smart glass, used for privacy in hotels and offices. When the door is unlocked, an electric current unfogs the windows. But when the door is bolted, the electricity is switched off, and the windows return to their frosted state.
See-through toilets were dreamed up by Pritzker Prize-winning architect Shigeru Ban.
I don't think it's crazy.
Visibility, he said, is one fix for public toilets, which have a reputation for filth and criminal activity.
You need privacy when you are inside, but when you are outside, you like to find out whether this is clean and this is safe, right? So then it should be transparent.
3 times a day, cleaners in designer uniforms ensure the dazzling cubes pass the white glove test. The privately financed Tokyo Toilet Project is unveiling over a dozen artful public bathrooms, but none has raised eyebrows like these, said project manager Hayato Hanaoka. His reaction to the see-through restroom?
Okay, I was super surprised, to be honest. You never seen a transparent toilet.
Yet after operating for just a few weeks, users say seeing is believing. You can tell right away whether the stall is occupied or not. I really like that, said this neighborhood mom. The student said, going in, I was nervous, scared even, but it was fine. I recommend it. Architect Shigeru Ban decided not to copyright his minimalist public lavatory design. He's hoping to spark a transparent toilet wave around the world.
For CBS This Morning, Saturday, Lucy Kraft, Tokyo.
Yeah. Our current biggest challenge is, can we sustain this with the highest level of cleanliness? I would like to achieve this by putting a lot of effort into maintenance. Another part of Japanese culture is the art of cleanliness. As a Japanese people, I know our team and those students who use the facilities will do their best to treat them as they would in their own homes. I would like to introduce my 10 learnings from the project. The first one, start by yourself. This means you can find the inspiration anytime, anywhere, but only you can kick off your project. The true reason for its being is coming from you. Take a deep breath, then take an action. Be open to everyone. I believe accessibility is the key to something that's global and long-lasting. The more open you are, the more potential your idea can have. Work hard. We need to do everything we can. And something that's, we need to do everything you can, whether you like it or not. Do the right things, whether you like it or not. Rewards will be given to those who work hard. Shout loudly. I know the value of the quiet riot, but if you shout, make sure you are heard. Make your own decisions. If you are willing to take responsibility for it, you should decide everything by yourself. During the project, I had so many fails. But the best way to minimize regret is to make your own decisions. Knock on the right doors. If you can find the right partner, your joy will be doubled and your sorrow will be halved. Likewise, the project will be completed faster and the difficulties can be minimized. Find your genius. I recognize my own limitations. Obviously, I'm not genius, so I trust genius talent. And let's consider again why they are called geniuses. To be a genius, you must surround yourself with geniuses. Don't overlook seemingly small signs. Little things add up. Small things make a big difference, good or bad. Problem solving plus problem posing equal innovations. Design is a solution to a problem, and art is a question to a problem. Design and art can be achieved simultaneously. If you can do it, you might be able to change current way of thinking. Maintain your creations. Your creations are like your babies. Take responsibility for them and keep them healthy and clean. So what's the next for the project? This is the final section of my presentation. Expand the concept through the media. I had a photo shooting with the Daido Moriyama. He is the one of the biggest photographer in the world right now. And I'm collaborating with the major cultural magazines. And my interview will be appeared in the Gagosian Quarterly on the website, maybe in the next month. Crosstalk with Mark Newson and Toyo Ito. And I also apply Creative and Design Awards, Good Design Award and Cannes Award. And originally, I would like to announce my art film project here, but unfortunately I could not finalize the contract with the film director yet, but almost concluded. So I think next month I will announce the big film project for this toilet. So please could you wait 2 or 3 weeks. Beginning of the May, I will try to make announcement in Japan. In June, in Milan City, Italy, I would like to have one art installation to introduce my project. I will change the public toilet in Tube Station in Milan City to the latest version. And I donate Toto toilet, and I make an original toilet paper, which will be printed on the toilet papers, Moriyama Daido pictures. So if you guys have a time to come to Milan to get the toilet papers. That's it. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that wonderful, amazing presentation. Moriyama Daido toilet papers, that is going to be quite something. I have to get my hands on a few rolls of these. Speaking of which, let me maybe call, as a way of calling onto the DS, our discussant, Rahul Mehrotra, let me just introduce a little bit, give a little bit of the biographical background for Rahul. I should take off my mask. Here it is. So joining me in discussion with Koji-san is Rahul Mehrotra, who is the John T. Dunlap Professor of Housing and Urbanization here at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. He's currently chair of the Department of Urban Planning and Design, director of the Master of Architecture program, director of the Master of Architecture and Urban Design program, and co-director of the Master of Landscape Architecture in Urban Design degree program. In addition to these academic appointments at Harvard, Rahul also maintains a prolific design practice through the Boston and Mumbai-based firm RMA Architects. And by way of maybe asking Rahul to offer a series of provocations to this discussion, to the Tokyo experience, maybe I'll just offer another historical episode, perhaps to provide some sort of temporal link between the Japanese experience and the Indian. So Matt, if I could have that one slide on the screen, please. So this is, as all of you know, the Tokyo 2020 and 2021 Olympics have been in many ways compared to what happened in 1964 with the first Tokyo Summer Olympic Games. And here on the screen is an image I got from the centennial history of Toto, the toilet bowl maker, collaborator with Koji-san on this wonderful project, which I'm sure all of you know about. And they actually did this mapping, this tabulation of access to various household amenities in Japan in 1965. So Japan was not always this paragon of modernity and cleanliness as we typically understand it to be. And in fact, while we often speak of the 1964 Summer Olympics in Tokyo as this in terms of, let's say, Tangeji Yogi stadiums, or in terms of the introduction of the bullet train, the Shinkansen, and the highway system, the Tokaido highway system, or in terms of this burgeoning of high-rise structures, let's say the high-rise buildings in the Shinjuku area, which began construction in the same period. in fact, there is this vast underlying infrastructure that was also in place. And in fact, perhaps this image now we hold dearly of what Japan represents really came into shape in this remarkable transformation of Tokyo and of Japan in the late 1950s and early 1960s. So to translate briefly what this diagram talks about is it talks about the penetration of access to sewage of average Japanese households. And the first bar is in fact sewage, which we see at astoundingly low of 13.9%. And very interesting, 3 bars over at 72.7% is electrical washing machines. So I still haven't figured out how is it possible that 73% of households had access to electrical washing machines while only 14% had access to sewage. And this goes to show some of these dramatic underlying adjustments a society and economy, a place must undergo to make for these leapfrogging moments in terms of this reach for growth and prosperity. So on this note, well, I should just again underscore the fact that Japan, Tokyo in particular, at the end of World War II in 1945, really had a population of only 3.5 million, and this ballooned to 10 million by 1960. That was what prompted, for instance, Tangei's monumental plan for Tokyo with this giant megastructure that spans the width of Tokyo Bay. So this was really the context in which all of these changes, including the unseen aspects of the city, particularly in terms of modern infrastructure of access to clean water and particularly the access to sanitation and sewage. So on this note, perhaps I can call to the podium Rahul to make a brief presentation on his experiences working in Mumbai.
Thank you, Seng. Thank you, Koji, for that wonderful presentation. Matt, could I have my first slide up too? So, I mean, you know, the 3 things that I got from your very inspiring presentation was empathy, because you had great empathy, and clearly you showed us that video which moved you. And also there was a moment, the Olympics, which acted as a trigger. So the combination of that empathy that sort of developed within you and that event led to this amazing process. And the notion of access and equitable access, in this case disability, in the case of where I work, poverty, and therefore, you know, the basic infrastructure. And so I think those become 3 very interesting guiding sort of moments: empathy, access, and equity, and then an event which triggers this off. And I just thought when Seng and I were discussing this, that in the context of the university, first of all, you know, you were very kind in our earlier meeting to generously offer to sponsor a public toilet on Harvard property as a studio with students, which could be quite an interesting process. Michael is now charged to follow up on this. But I also wanted to use the occasion, not only for people in the audience, but also for you. We started the conversation to share some of the thinking we are doing here at the GSD around these issues and to see how we might create some sort of alignments. And so, you know, this is a map among many others which just shows the global north and south. And this is well timed because tomorrow with the Dean, we are launching an issue of the Harvard Design Magazine, which looks at the global today. And these are the sorts of issues we've looked at, where you have inequity. What you see is the global north, where you see the absence of water stress or disease or all the things that are related to public health and sanitation. And in the global south, you see, you know, a surfeit of those sorts of issues that are prominent. So when we focus on India, this is the map of open defecation in India. About 600 million people on this planet defecate in the open, of which 300 million are in India, which is a very large population. And so open defecation is a huge issue. And that has a big relationship to, and this is what our research here is showing, to GDP, to the economy. Public health is critical in keeping people productive and healthy. And so that is quite mind-blowing. And by the time you begin to bring those graphics down to a place like Mumbai, it's mind-boggling, because in a place like Mumbai, it's about somewhere between 1,400 and 1,600 people per toilet seat. The government's aspiration is to make it 40 people per toilet seat, which means it's 10 families. You'd have to have a lottery every morning to see who can use the toilet, right? So even the aspiration is not, I think, far enough, and we can do much more with it, right? And so that becomes a version of public toilets there, people helping themselves, and that becomes the imagination of the government's idea of a public toilet, which is dark, dirty, smelly, scary. Everything you said fits perfectly there. So it kind of resonates, because I think in terms of economy, Japan versus India, we're in completely different sort of modes. And so this was a prototype that we did for an NGO called Spark, which was a World Bank funded prototype, where what we tried to do was create a community space on top, separate the men and women, bring flowers around it so that the associations of this would change. But essentially what we learned from this was that when you do community toilets in societies like that as monofunctional infrastructure, the chances of it embedding in those communities is very minimal. And therefore, one has to think about it in different ways. And this was a project for the Gates Foundation. This is an international competition which we won but never got built, which was a Gates, again, taking the idea of non-monofunctional infrastructure but embedding it more squarely within the community. And here we came up with the idea of also selling filtered water, soap, sanitation-related things. So it becomes a kind of hub, and it becomes a community space for children. It becomes a kind of place which is a community place where the toilet is only one of many things embedded. This is a project I'm showing, which is a young architect who had worked for us. Rohan Chauhan is his name, where he's done these public toilets in the same way as non-monofunctional infrastructure, but for truck drivers on the highway, where they can rest, they can get a shave, they can, sleep. And this was an amenity that didn't exist for truckers within it. So it becomes, again, a form of infrastructure. And therefore, symbolically, how you can place infrastructure like that across from the temple on equal importance becomes a cultural and a significant question. But the most important learning that's coming out from our research is sanitation is a broken piece of infrastructure and a broken ecology, really, because it is a complex ecology of which one would imagine as infrastructure. If you imagine sanitation infrastructure, community toilets is one component, especially in parts of like this in India where basic infrastructure is missing. So what we've been trying to look at is those relationships to inform what finally the toilet could be and how that imaginary of the toilet could be sort of informed. And so this is the work we've done here at the GSD, which is sanitation as infrastructure, which was a studio in Mumbai. So it has research, but it also has studio projects, which I shared with you, and we will share more of this. And there are 12 projects, and I'm just showing you one project which looked at the notion of transitional solutions in a settlement within Mumbai, and how one can create a network of different forms of sanitation infrastructure to work as an ecology to solve these problems. And now, with the help of the South Asia Institute at the GSD, we have developed a catalog which is called Imagining a Sanitation Hub, where we are exploring how it intersects with public health, because a public toilet in a slum or a favela is a perfect pathology lab, because you can get a read on the community's health just by picking up samples from that. And given COVID and all of that, you can expand it in many ways. And so therefore, how can one even expand this imagination further is what this document has tried to do. And in a place like India, where you have almost 20,000 transitioning settlements, which are not villages, they're not towns, they don't have the infrastructure. This sort of settlement can become an ideal test. So it's not so much in the cities even, but in these peripheral. So we studied what the landscape of these places is in terms of material, construction techniques, colors, textures, and began to develop what might be prototype hubs, where the toilet is only one component of what is essentially a community facility. And therefore, this notion of it as a sanitation infrastructure and a sanitation hub, which then begins to bring multiplicity of kind of domains to intersect. And really it is, and I think you showed us a case of Tokyo, we talked about this earlier, context really matters because location is from where some of this would grow. And I think what you presented to us reinforced the idea of location, of culture, of particular needs, and the notion of empathy, equity, access, which is access for poor, access for disabled, access for a whole spectrum of society. So I just wanted to put that there as a sharing, so when we discuss it, we have a spectrum of issues we could look at, and really, from your experience, ask you what might resonate in terms of learnings, even beyond what you've shown us in Tokyo. So thank you again.
Thank you very, very much. I think the questions I have for the two of you, perhaps before we open up to the audience here, firstly has to do with this idea of patronage. In both cases, of course, and I'd love to hear, of course, much more from Rahul about the mechanisms he is envisioning in terms of how to implement beyond the normal capacities of government, of bureaucracy, in actually bring these facilities to the local level. But for Koji-san, I also have a question about patronage. Of course, the economic and bureaucratic efficacies between India and Japan are vastly different. And as I was just reading a little bit about the toilets program, this idea, this article came up that I was really intrigued by, which has to do with the naming rights of these toilets, but also having to do, naming rights is something that we, of course, at an institution like Harvard is acutely aware of. But it is actually something that is just starting to appear in Japan. Up until fairly recently, I think while major corporations are often acting behind the scenes, as you have done through something like an NGO like the Nippon Foundation to provide essentially the front for this largely private philanthropic endeavor, what is your take on this what seems to be adjustment in terms of expectations and in terms of protocols in, let's say, private initiatives in causing public change in Japan?
So regarding the naming rights, some toilet has advertising spaces. So some companies are using that spaces as their commercial or advertisement. The expansion of that scheme, some toilet has started to sell the naming rights to receive some sponsor fee. So Shibuya was also doing the same system before I started this project. But according to Shibuya Ward, they were struggling to find the sponsors to each toilets. That's why they were not working well. And when I proposed my project to Shibuya Ward, they are very happy to stop that naming rights campaign because I put a lot of the budget to the toilet project. So I think the always funding is the one of the biggest issues to solve the public sanitation or toilet project. And if someone or some company can make a decision to invest, to put the money in the public toilet, I think in Japan case, that system will start very smoothly. That's my understanding about the penetration of this not system but this project.
But if I could just ask a fairly gentle follow-up to that, I mean, would it be fair to say that in general Japanese corporations tend to be a little bit more shy about going forward in these social projects than what we find typically, let's say, in Europe or the United States?
Yes, that is true. Yeah, but right now, the mood of the community or society is changing gradually. If the company said nothing about such philanthropic activities or initiatives, the society recognized that company did nothing. So, as a UNIQLO case, we were also very shy as a brand. So, historically, we are not shouting our such social contribution activities very much. But right now, we try to convey our message, how we want to contribute to the community, and we are trying to deliver such message more stronger than before.
Thank you. And Rahul?
Yeah, in the case of India, of course, it's much more complex because the problem is much bigger. But there are different forms of patronage. To go to your question, the government has a massive mission. I mean, the Prime Minister in India, his ambition is in, the next 15 years or 10 years to have a toilet in every house. So what they're doing is they have big factories and they prefabricate toilets and they deliver them outside village homes. But how do you do it in a favela or a slum? The density is too high. So therefore, one has to think about community toilets as a transition, right? So that's one form of patronage. The other is the NGO sector and corporations. There's a wonderful foundation called the Solab Sauchalaya, which has been in operation for decades, and they build public toilets in cities. They charge people a very minimal amount, and that keeps the maintenance going. But you know what is consistent in all these forms of patronage in India is there's no design. And that's what was very inspiring about this presentation. The role design can play in recognizing the particularities of location, right? Of course, that's a given. And so there are many forms of patronage. They just haven't aligned. And I think the critical thing thinking about sanitation in India is, again, I'm emphasizing context matters. So how you intervene in a slum community where people don't own the land, the government has imaginations how to redevelop it, how you make investments in terms of material life cycles. So is it a transitionary solution or an absolute one becomes a critical question. In smaller towns, which is the example I showed, these are peripheral towns with populations of 20, 30,000 people, agricultural. It's a different approach because then the nature of that hub is quite different. And so I think it's a complex landscape, but I think what I'm beginning to learn is location matters, the identifying the patronage and then aligning those aspirations is completely different, and design can play a massive role, which is, I think, underutilized in the context of India.
I mean, this idea of alignment seems to be so crucial. I mean, there seems to be no shortage of resources out there. But in this case, I mean, I think what we heard from Koji-san today is this amazing case of this perfect alignment of will, of desire, of a social need, but also, you know, someone who worked incredibly hard over the course of the last 5 years, 3 years to bring this to realization. If I can ask the two of you to talk a little bit about making this alignment work and what it takes to bring the resources and the needs to match each other, and the kind of infrastructure, social infrastructure that is actually necessary in the cases of India and in Japan to make this alignment come together.
The alignment, in my project case, luckily, the Nippon Foundation, they had a mutual partnership between Nippon Foundation and the Shibuya Ward. That partnership is formed to solve the social issues. Nippon Foundation will fund it, and Shibuya Ward will accept it to solve the social issues in Shibuya Ward. Shibuya has several social issues, and one of the issues was number of the public toilets, because the residency of the Shibuya Ward is 400,000 people, but the daytime, over the 1 million people are coming to the Shibuya area to working or to shopping. So the urban city design point of view, they located the public toilet in the Shibuya area to address for the 400,000 people. But the actual population in the daytime is over 1 million people are coming. So if the earthquake or something will be happen in the daytime, the number of the toilets will be shortage. So they need to increase, or they need to have some solutions to solve that issues. So that's why my proposal or my idea was smoothly accepted by them. So I was very lucky to make alignment with the government and the actual executional entities.
Fantastic. Rahul?
Yeah, I mean, I think in at least my experiences in India, it would differ again by location. So let's take I'm just going to, for simplicity, say the big cities, the small towns like I showed you, and the village, right? If that even yet exists. In the big cities, it's the folks who don't have toilets or access to sanitation are the poor who live in slums. They don't have tenure of land. So there the alignment, it's actually a political will decision. Unfortunately, in a place like India, all the intellectual capital, as far as design is concerned, is just concentrated in the big cities. So that ability exists, but the political will has to be very large because it's a question of very expensive land. If you go to the small town, the will exists, communities can be organized, people have tenure on their land, but you got to take design there. So that alignment becomes difficult. That's why the sample we chose for the Harvard project was taking a small town for that reason. And if you go to the village, it's an alignment of cultural practices. So when the government now builds these prefabricated toilets and delivers it to the village, often people use it as a big cupboard. They store their grain and their jewelry in it because it's the most firm firm concrete structure because everything else is built in mud. So that's a cultural kind of difference. So I think the alignments vary, and it's shifting because it's aspirational, economic, and cultural. So it's hard to generalize that response.
Thank you. We have, I think, just about 15 minutes left. I have more questions for the two speakers, but if there are questions from the audience, perhaps this would be a good opportunity to present them. Mark.
Well, thank you very much for the two presentations. It's extremely exciting, to have this subject matter at the Academy. Since you were talking about alignment, I was trying to think whether there would be forms of rapprochement between the two positions taken, and I was thinking about a UNICEF report that came out last year. It's all about sanitary equity. Okay, that's the key subject matter, and their call. There is also fun in it where they say it's time to make a stink. Okay, they say now we need to talk about that subject matter because we have 60% of the world populations that do not have toilets in their homes, and 25% of the schools globally do not have toilets at all. So the question, could you imagine something like, the Lagos toilet, the Mumbai toilet, the Addis Ababa toilet, etc. So this, since you were thinking about how to move ahead, and since your father said, it should be for all, so let's go there. My second question is, if you start to move to what you call the minority world, you would have to disengage the toilet from sewage systems. Okay, so off the grid. Okay, could you imagine toilets that are not connected to the grid? Okay? That would be a great challenge for your company.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the understanding of the, I don't know how to say, the importance of the toilet is the super important for those countries, which is like India and other emerging country, because they don't know how important the toilet it is. So I think if we can make improvement of the understanding about the toilet, the merit of the toilet, I think we can find someone like me to invest to make such facilities in these areas as well. But right now, still, we're in the learning process, so not so many people can find such importance of the toilet, and the understanding, the lack of the understanding is still happened. That is my understanding. Is that maybe I'm wrong, but how do you think?
There are two parts to the question. First, I would just correct your statement slightly, which is to say that, again, I think people understand the importance of the toilet, and I think people understand the importance in terms of public health very much. It's just unfortunately, and for us, it's hard to even imagine that it's so low down in the priority, because the first part of the priority actually is livelihoods, just to survive. Then it's followed by dwelling, just to be able to, I'm not even saying housing, I'm saying dwelling. And then the third would be everything that surrounds it in public health. And that's why one was trying to now see it in a more complex way, because if one sees that ecology, you can situate it, right? So I think that is worth recognizing. And then I think to your point, Mark, yes, absolutely. And so in the small town, because it was surrounded by agriculture, one was imagining reed beds and a whole landscape that goes with the built form for exactly doing the performances that are related to purifying water, sewage, etc. And therefore, it can be a different kind of design where it's also the landscape in which a toilet like this is situated, which creates a beauty and therefore an attractiveness and a different relationship in some ways. But that would again depend on location. So in a city, you just connect it to the system because that's the most viable thing to do, right? Because you don't have the land.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. And we saw very different toilets, and we saw different toilet cultures and different access to toilets. Like, we saw the lack of toilets in India, we saw the Tokyo Toilet Project that's setting a good example. And I'm just thinking that, for example, in my home country in Germany, there are public toilets, but either they're also like scary or dirty, or you have to pay for them. And then now when I look at the US, I see like a lack of public toilets. Like, for example, in Cambridge, there are almost no public toilets around here. So I'm thinking, what can the US learn from the Tokyo Toilet Project, but also from the aspirations of the Indian government to build more toilets?
Sorry, I could not catch your questions exactly. So
I'm wondering, like, what could the US, as like one of the richest countries in the world, learn from the Tokyo Toilet Project with aspirations for better toilets, but also from the aspirations of the Indian government just to provide more toilets?
The cleanliness is the one of the key. So regardless the free of charge or charged type of public toilets, as far as you can keep the cleanliness of the toilet, the people will enjoy to use it. But even the free of charge, the dirty or scary or smelly toilet, the people avoid to use it. So if you can install the clean program, clean program in the system, I think whatever toilet will be successful to keep a momentum of the cleanness. So I think the cleaning process or cleaning scheme is super important.
Hard to say what to learn from. We have the premium on the problems in India, so it's another way to look at it. But just from that, on a more positive note, also from that comes innovation, right? So I was sharing earlier when we were discussing maintenance. In Mumbai, for example, what the restaurants did was they, for a small charge, created an app, and from 10 to noon and from 3 to 6, when the restaurant wasn't being used, those became toilets that were accessible to the public for a small charge. And you rated the toilet, but the restaurants rated your use. So if you left it dirty, you weren't welcomed back the next time, or you didn't get access. So that's an interesting innovation using digital technology, and it's tied to maintaining a culture of maintenance. And here the restaurants maintain it, so they do it as part of their corporate social responsibility, but they do a nominal charge on it and rate, right? So that's just one that comes to mind. So from conditions of extreme difficulties come some innovations, and I think it's worth looking at it. One of the essays in that sanitation, the extreme urbanism, is an essay by Michael Leinmeyer, who works with the Tata Trusts in Mumbai. He works with the Toilet Board Coalition. There's an international toilet board coalition, and what they're pushing is a toilet economy, which means they're linking recycling, they're linking all sorts of things to make an economy out of it in the way entrepreneurs can actually begin to find profit and innovation in doing it. And there's a whole essay just on that idea of the toilet economy in that book. So, I mean, I think from those sort of pressed conditions also come forms of innovation and thinking outside the box, and more ecologically in a sense, because you connect many domains which give you other possibilities, you know, and so that might be the learning.
I think we have time for one more question, perhaps.
Hey. Hi, my name is Zoe. Oh, did you have a question?
No, go.
Sorry. So it's really wonderful to meet you, and I was really inspired by the work that the Tokyo Toilet Project did in terms of thinking about collectivity and addressing collectivity within design. One thing that, as I've gone through the GSD and given thought about, is how do you engage community? How do you use design to meet the needs of a community? And one thing that I found very inspiring about your project was you had multiple partners, from architects to your own corporate organization to, you know, the Toto company. So with so many partners involved, what did community engagement look like for everyone involved? I imagine it was different from the architects to, you know, Toto to yourself. So if you could elaborate on that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, fortunately, maybe you don't know the Daiwa House is the not I don't know how to say it. Daiwa House is not the premium I don't know how to say it.
It's a mass market.
Yeah, right, yes. Mass market constructor. So their in-house designer or architects, normally they don't have a opportunity to work together with the top tier creators. So the Daiwa House totally appreciated this project because they are able to improve their abilities through the process with the top creators' conversations. So I invited so many genius creators to this project, and these creators to communicate with the Daiwa House as a project process, in the project process, and Daiwa House appreciated to this opportunity. So I think the inviting the many talent to this project is the one of the, I don't know how to say, one of the biggest merit for the Daiwa House. That's why they are willingly to address each request from the creators, and they are willing to explain the goodness of the design to the communities on behalf of the creators and together with the creators. That process was very fascinated, and the people who is living in the community are appreciated such process. So I think, of course, sometimes many creators are making a very complicated situations, but this time, fortunately, that situation was not happened.
Thank you. Maybe, yeah. One last question.
Yeah, I'll keep it short, but thank you so much for taking the time to speak. I'm actually curious about switching the narrative a little bit, and I was wondering for the designs, were there taken into consideration the maintenance worker and the cleaners? Were, bathroom, public bathroom design, and a lot of the conversations revolved around the people who's using it, but what about the people who's maintaining it? So.
Sorry, can you?
Yeah, I can speak slowly again. I was wondering if there's any thoughts or dialogues about with the people who are maintaining the bathroom spaces and how the design is also designed for them as well as they're in the process of maintaining and repairing the bathrooms.
So you mean the design, the cleaners?
Yeah.
Cleaners comment about the designs?
Yeah, or were they taken into consideration in the public bathroom design process for your project specifically?
Not really complaint from the cleaners, because after each creator designed the toilet, total supervising the detail of the designs of each unit of the toilet. So even if the creators will make a very complicated design, the total supervisor reviewing that design and revised to easy to maintain. That's why our projected toilet is keeping some consistency inside of the toilet by supervising a total company. That's one of the key point to make easy maintenance for the cleaners. So I don't have any complaint from the cleaners. Sorry, my answer is.
That's it. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
On this note, so let's give another round of applause to our speakers, to Koji-san and to
Thank you very much.
Rahul. And look forward to trying them out on the next trip to Japan.
Thank you very much.